Hi friends, as you can see, I brought a very special friend to start our video today. This is Baker. She's not looking at the screen, but she wanted to say hi and that she hopes you're all having so much fun at home and still learning. But she's gonna have to go because she will not let me do a very good job reading. So I have chapter 7 for you today. Last time we read, the Shen and Sika were off on the race, but they have a week. It's going to take at least a week to get there. So let's see what happens. Chapter 7. They rushed into the night forest, following the tracks of the sleds that had gone ahead of them, weaving between the tall, dark trees. Far ahead, they could sometimes hear the deep barking of other sled teams, and the pugs lifted up their little heads and answered, "Yip, yip, yip." They were loving it. They felt like real dogs at last, the sort of dogs that they were in their secret doggy dreams. But all the woofing and yipping made the dark trees tremble, and down from the branches slid great dollops of snow. You can see here some of the dogs in the race. Flump, flump, flump! Somehow Sika steered her way around the snow without crashing into any tree trunks. Other sleds were not so fortunate. They passed two that had been smashed by the snow flumps and whose grumpy owners were starting the long walk back to Snowdovia. And near the far edge of the forest they found Shackleton Jones standing under the trees watching while Snowbot dug his high-tech sled and robot dog team out of a massive snow dollop. Sika slowed her sled to ask if he needed help, but he just grinned and said, "I have all the help I need. Snowbot is designed to dig a ton of snow a minute. You'll have us out of here soon, won't you, Snowbot?" He beamed at the children again. "So, kids, next stop, Kraken Deep, eh? What's supposed to go on there, do you think?" "They say the Kraken sleeps there," said Sika. "That's an ancient sea monster with tentacles and things. When true winter comes, it rises to the surface. If we're lucky, the ice will be thick enough to stop it from reaching up and grabbing us." So here they are talking about the Kraken sea monster. Shackleton Jones laughed. "The Kraken? You don't believe in that old story, do you? That's just a legend of the sea, like the Bermuda Triangle or the Night of the Seawigs." He'll be saying next that the Snowfather himself is just a legend. "At least we're not last anymore," said Shen, looking back over his shoulder as they left the snow-flumped sled behind. But secretly he was hoping that Shackleton Jones had been right about the Kraken. They shot out of the forest and went swooshing down a long, smooth slope. They left the land and went speeding over the sea. The ice was smoother there. It was sheltered by high, dark rocks, which poked from the frozen sea in a wide ring. It was as smooth as a skating rink, and all over the surface Shen could see the tracks of the other sleds that had come this way, heading toward the north. "What a strange place," he said. "I wonder if the Kraken really does live here." The frozen sea was as clear as glass, thick and ripply like the glass in the front doors. Shen looked down through it, and from the cold depths something looked up at him. The sled was hurtling above an eye the size of a parking garage. And all of those snaky rocks weren't rocks at all. They were the tips of massive tentacles, frozen as the Kraken lifted them up out of the sea. Sika?" said Shen. "What is it?" Shen looked down at the eye again. He was sure that it was staring back at him. And then, as he stared back at it, it blinked. Cracks! The towering tentacles twitched. Cascades of shattering ice came raining down. So they're sledding over this frozen ocean, and the tentacles from the sea monster are poking out. The cascades of shattered ice came raining down their sides like broken glass as the tips waved, trying to break free and snatch Shen and Sika. Cracks spread across the ice. "Go faster!" Shen shouted. But the 66 pugs were already running as fast as they could. Their little pink tongues were hanging out, and their hot breath made plumes of steam in the icy air. Their paws skittered on the frozen sea. A crack went zigzagging across the front in front of them, and they jumped it, the sled bumping behind them. Then another crack, wider this time. The pugs veered away as the crack widened, and now more black cracks were widening all around them. The ice of the Kraken deep jumped like a drumhead as the huge beast beneath it lurched upward, and all the tentacles writhed and strained. The cracks yawned wider. The pugs stopped running. There was nowhere to run. As you can see, here they are skating over the ice. And here is the eye, the sea monster. There was nowhere to run to. The sled was on an icy island surrounded by widening cracks, so they're stranded in this ice. The island began to tilt, and the sled slithered backwards. Quickly, Shen leaned over the front of the sled and began unclipping the pug's leashes. If the sled slid right over to the edge of the ice and down into the dark water, he didn't want it to drag all the poor pugs down with it. With a terrible splintering noise, one of the Kraken's tentacles tore free of the ice and came groping toward the stranded sled, showering Sen and Sika with cold water and shards of ice that smashed all around them like dropped snow window panes. The Kraken's huge eye watched coldly from below. It had been asleep for a long time, and ever since the last true winter, in fact. The runners of all the other sleds had woken as they went screaming across the ice. Now it was looking for its breakfast. But the pugs were not having any of that. They began to yip and yap even louder than before. They bounced about on their short legs, barking and snarling at the huge purple tentacles as it curled above them. One, braver than the rest, bounced so high that he managed to sink his teeth into the tip of it. The startled Kraken lashed its tentacle, but the pugs clung on tight. All the other pugs thought that looked like so much fun that they went charging off to find tentacles of their own to attack. Without the heavy sled to pull, they jumped easily over the cracks the Kraken had opened. Yipping fiercely, they flung themselves at the twinning tentacles and bit them hard. So the pugs are attacking the tentacles, and they might just save the day. This whole page is an illustration of the pugs attacking the tentacles. You can see Sen and Shika there. The Kraken thrashed, trying to shake them off, but they just wagged their tails and snarled. The huge creatures stared up through the ice in confusion. It had fought battles with killer whales in the dark blue depths and dragged polar bears down into its chilly lair. But it had never met creatures like these before. Little dark specks like flakes of windblown fluff, but fluff with teeth. Ow, thought the Kraken, and one by one it snaked its tentacles back down into the deep. The pugs let go as the tentacle tips vanished back beneath the ice, but they kept barking and snarling and yipping. Shen and Sika stared down through the ice. The great eye of the Kraken stared back angrily for a moment. Then it vanished as the Kraken squirted out a huge black cloud of ink to hide itself. When the ink cleared, the Kraken was gone. It had swum away to find a less dangerous breakfast, maybe a shark or two, out in the deep ocean. In the holes and cracks that it had made, the water was already freezing again. Phew, said Shen. He started gathering the pugs together. Wait until I tell Grandpa, said Shika. That was as good of end as any of his stories. For the first time, Shen felt that there was a chance they might win. Then, while they were busy reattaching the pugs to the sled, they heard the barking of another dog team behind them. Shackleton Jones and Snowbutt had gotten their sled working again, and they came swooping across the Kraken deep, waving as they zipped past Shen and Sika. See, said Shackleton Jones, there's no Kraken here. It's all just silly superstition. But, Shen started to say, it was no use. Already Shackleton Jones and his sled were just a dot, dwindling into the north. Great, said Sika. Now we're last again. But we have the bravest dog team, said Shen, scattering dog treats for the pugs. There's Shen and Sika giving them treats, and then you can see Shackleton Jones all the way off in the distance. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.